but I wanted to date and I wanted to, date. And so I contacted a matchmaker. When I left Kody, I decided I wanted to find someone who...
She sat at the edge of her bed, 50 years old, not broken, but emptied. Staring into the kind of void that doesn't scream, it hums, quietly, cruelly. "I'm stuck," she muttered into the silence, voice brittle, eyes dry from too many nights, where tears had long lost meaning. "I'm stuck financially, have nothing. Christine had the house, I have nothing." Wasn't just a confession, it was a reckoning, an echo of reality that finally cut through years of silent sacrifice. And surface-level smiles. Her name was on property with everyone else. Sure, but what did that even mean anymore when everyone else had turned into shadows who no longer answered phone calls? No longer returned texts, no longer cared to play ball, as she put it with hollow sarcasm. She wasn't in denial, she was in survival mode. And then it began. Not with a bang, but a whisper. That's how these unravelings always seem to start, don't they? Not with fireworks or slamming doors, but with quiet rumors. A number floated, first in comment sections, then fan forums. $500,000, $500,000 gone. No clear explanation. Not shown on camera, not logged in a spreadsheet. Was like money had simply evaporated. But fan-smart, obsessive, analytical fans started connecting dots like breadcrumbs. They studied timestamps, behavior changes, housing records, and background decor and reality TV footage like forensic analysts. And somehow all roads kept circling back to one name. Robyn Brown. The whispers turned into murmurs. And the murmurs into a collective suspicion that the heart of the financial disintegration of the Brown family didn't lie with just Kody's leadership, or the failure of polygamy may have centered around a single shared PayPal account. One allegedly created as a family Tula central hub to manage income from the TLC show, book deals, cameos, brand endorsements, family appearances, shared purse in a plural marriage meant to represent unity, sacrifice, and community. But if the whispers were true, that account had been weaponized, transformed. Not a pot of love and labor, but a funnel, a siphon, a trap.
Oh.
The math, though never aired directly on the show, was being done in real time by the very fans who had followed the Browns for years. According to those fans and some behind-the-scenes sources, the PayPal account was initially funded by all the wives Christine, Janelle, Mary, and even Robyn. Equal input, collective output. But somewhere along the line, the withdrawals started to look suspicious. And over time, it seemed only one person truly benefited. Around the same time, Robyn had purchased a sprawling $1.65 million home in Arizona on upscale property with landscaping upgrades, a newly renovated kitchen, imported light fixtures, and high-end furnishings. The timelines lined up too perfectly. It wasn't just coincidence, it was choreography. The house was never intended to be just Robyn's. Janelle would later admit in a rare, candid moment, it was pitched as a family investment to property that would serve the collective Brown name, a future legacy. But when Janelle requested to have her name added to the deed, along with the others who had allegedly contributed financially, the conversation shifted. Robyn, sources claimed, refused outright. And Kody, instead of mediating fairly like a true patriarch, backed her without hesitation. "We need to protect Robyn's estate," he allegedly said. That single sentence shattered something deep within Janelle, because in that moment, everything crystallized. The money wasn't theirs, it was hers. The unity was a lie. The dream of a plural, spiritual family bound by shared faith and shared struggle had been replaced by a cold corporate hierarchy. And Janelle, she had just discovered she was the lowest on the totem pole, a ghost in her own story. She remembered those early years, the chaos, yes, but also the warmth. The folding chairs around a cheap kitchen table, all of them taking votes on what to do next. Who needed shoes? Who needed braces? whether it was time to dig into savings for the foundation at Coyote Pass. It was messy, democratic, and imperfect, but it was theirs. That decision-making structure, though, had died quietly. In its place, secrecy and control took root. Kody had begun withdrawing funds without discussion. "And I didn't know what for," Janelle would later admit, the sadness in her voice worn like a coat too heavy to shrug off. Meanwhile, Robyn's life sparkled. Art appeared on the walls, furniture was replaced, landscaping crews arrived regularly. And yet, the rest of the family was allegedly struggling to pay off the land they had all dreamed of developing together at Coyote Pass. Now a symbol of both hope and heartbreak, Christine had walked away with her home. Mary had LuLaRoe and her B&B. Robyn had the mansion, and Janelle, nothing. No deed. No land, no cushion. Just her name floating meaninglessly on assets no one wanted to divide. Fans started asking the questions TLC wouldn't. If Janelle didn't even own the trailer she lived in on Coyote Pass, how did Robyn afford a house with imported tile and custom cabinetry? If the Browns couldn't finish development on shared property due to lack of funds, why were there luxury upgrades at just one address? When asked again about the house, Robyn reportedly shut the conversation down. And Kody, now visibly more Robyn's husband than anyone else's, fell eerily silent. Janelle saw the writing on the wall, or perhaps more accurately, in the transactions. She didn't cry, she calculated. Because underneath the faith, the motherhood, the quiet strength, Janelle had always been the budgeter. The one who balanced groceries and school supplies and birthdays with barely enough to go around. She had spreadsheets before Kody ever had ambitions. And now, those spreadsheets were screaming. The numbers didn't add up. The TLC income should have been enough. The cameos, the books, the expos, the MLMs, the rentals. So where did it go? And suddenly, she knew. It wasn't a matter of where, it was a matter of who. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial. And it wasn't just theft, it was erasure. When Janelle began asking deeper questions, who controlled the LLC? Where the PayPal account was registered? Who had final say on property titles? Doors began to close. She wasn't naive, she was strategic. And now she knew she'd been kept in the dark, not because she couldn't understand the business side, but because she'd asked the wrong questions. Fans who once accused her of staying too quiet began to understand the truth. She wasn't complicit, she was silenced. And when she broke that silence, the entire fan base felt it like a ripple. She didn't scream, she didn't throw things. She simply stopped showing up for Kody's illusions. And then came the final betrayal. Not a dramatic confession, but a quiet evening. Watching the lights flicker on inside Robyn's perfectly landscaped estate while Kody once again failed to show up for dinner. Another child's birthday missed. Another holiday alone. Another text unanswered. Another lie swallowed. That was when something shifted inside her. And for the first time in decades, Janelle didn't bend, she stood. Not as a wife, not as a sister wife, but as a woman. She began building quietly, maybe even secretly. She opened her own accounts, she consulted professionals, started preparing for a future that didn't include spiritual wives, group votes, or dusty promises. She wasn't afraid anymore, she was done. And now, fans everywhere are waking up to her story like never before. Championing her rise, not as a side character in Kody's drama, but as the woman who held the family together while everyone else played favorites and the whispers. They're louder now. There are even rumors of legal action, Janelle possibly considering what Christine had never done, suing for her rightful share of what she helped build. 'Cause this isn't just a divorce, it's an extraction. And as the dust settles over Coyote Pass and Robyn's gates remain firmly shut, Janelle is walking away with something far more valuable than a title on a deed: the truth. And here at Starspill USA, we're going to keep peeling back those layers, because this isn't just reality TV anymore. This is generational fallout. This is spiritual abuse. This is the cost of silence. And Janelle, it's not silent anymore. Silent anymore.
I'm sort of surprised that she doesn't want to try and reconcile, that she wants to be separated. We've been separated.
It wasn't rage that moved. Hurt was clarity, sharpened by years of quiet betrayal. And the unmistakable sound of everything she thought was stable crumbling beneath her feet. Legacy, ownership, truth, these weren't just abstract words to Janelle Brown anymore. They were her battle cry, her fuel. What mobilized her wasn't gossip or cryptic Instagram captions, it was documentation. Cold, hard paperwork, itemized lines and bank records, mortgage contracts and LLC registrations. She wanted answers, real ones, not soft smiles or vague promises. She didn't want platitudes or Kody's usual verbal sleight of hand. She wanted numbers, transactions, timelines. If those answers didn't come willingly, she was fully prepared to go and get them herself. Because this wasn't just about finances anymore. It was about memory, legacy, ownership, justice. And for the first time in over 3 decades, Janelle Brown stopped being a spiritual wife and started being a witness in, unwilling one perhaps, but a necessary one. A witness to betrayal, a witness to silence. And maybe, just maybe, the first domino in a carefully curated empire about to implode under the weight of its own contradictions. In the early days, money didn't feel like currency. Felt like trust. It was communal, even sacred. Not Kody's, not just the wives', everyone's. They called it our fund, a shared purse built not just on dollars but on belief, faith, sacrifice. One wife bought groceries, another paid for the kids' school clothes. One stayed home, while the other picked up extra shifts. It wasn't perfect, but it worked until it didn't. And no one saw that slow shift more clearly than Janelle. She'd been watching the numbers even when no one else did, about 10 years ago. She would say softly in interviews, things started changing, the pooling stopped, the unity cracked. What was once ours became mine. The meetings stopped. The shared votes vanished. It became every wife for herself, except Robyn. Because when Robyn needed a house, the universe bent. Money materialized. Silence followed. Suddenly, shockingly, the entire family pulled together, but only for her. And Janelle didn't protest. Least not then. She still believed in the dream. She still thought Robyn was one of them, till she asked a simple question. Could the other wives be added to the mortgage just to protect everyone equally? Kody's response sliced like a dagger. We need to protect Robyn's estate, not the family estate, not our legacy. Robyn's, that was the moment that split the foundation. Because while Janelle was living frugally in a trailer, planning how to fund Coyote Pass, Kody was outfitting new SUVs, buying a TVs, and pouring thousands into the customized Arizona mansion Robyn had miraculously secured. And all the while, Janelle kept staring at the books, seeing red ink, unanswered debts, and evaporating funds. If money was so tight, she asked, why did Robyn's house look like it belonged on a reality show about millionaires? The silence that followed said more than Kody ever could. Insiders say she confronted him face to face, demanded to know where the money was going. His answer? Not denial, just indifference. I don't owe you details, he allegedly snapped. We'll just take it to the gossip mill. Janelle wasn't gossiping, she was investigating. And what she found wasn't a mistake. It was a system. A quiet, calculated siphoning operation disguised as family support. It started with whispers. A PayPal account allegedly linked to a family LLC Kody controlled. Fans started digging. Six-figure transaction. No clear receipts. A timeline that suspiciously matched Robyn's home purchase. As Kody preached about debt and delay, Robyn's house bloomed with new landscaping. A custom kitchen, designer furniture, even a renovated patio. And Janelle was supposed to believe they were broke. That's when her clarity turned to resolve. Because her kids had watched her skip vacations, stretch every penny, and sacrifice her own comfort to keep a dream alive. And that dream? It was. Paying for someone else's reality, Robyn's. I feel like he's just looking for ways to get rid of me. She admitted once, voice trembling from fatigue. And the heartbreak wasn't just emotional, it was logistical. Janelle had contributed to that pot, to that estate. She had skin in the game. I'd like to recoup some of the money I put into Robyn's house. She finally said, not our house, Robyn's, because now the illusion was shattered. What she had uncovered wasn't a fluke. It was structural rot, institutional favoritism, and a carefully hidden financial pipeline that had been bleeding her dry while enriching someone else. She wasn't just angry, she was done. And in every great unraveling, there's that one moment where the truth stops whispering and starts screaming. For Janelle, it came not in a lawyer's office or court of law, but in Robyn's living room. She visited, walked in, saw fresh renovations, custom decor, expensive upgrades. A backyard that looked like a home and garden magazine. Spread, and she froze. Because Kody had just told her there was no money. That the family couldn't afford to finish Coyote Pass. That they were tight. But this wasn't tight. This was wealth. And more dangerously, this was secrecy. And then came the slip-up. Weeks prior, Kody had mentioned settling up with Robyn's household due to prior family support transfers, a phrase Janelle had never heard, not once in 30 years. And he said it like a man defending himself against an accusation she hadn't even made. When she pressed, he changed the subject. That's when it hit her. He wasn't explaining. He was hiding. It's because if those support transfers were real, why didn't she know? Why didn't Christine? Why didn't Mary? It wasn't shared. Sacrifice. It was private benefit disguised as family assistance. It was siphoning. Robyn wasn't just a favorite, she was the end game, the reward, the protected class. And Janelle had been used to fund it, used to excuse it, used to hold it together while it thrived without her. And that was the moment the fuse was lit. She pulled receipts, mortgage papers, tax filings, spoke to people, got professional. Advice started building a case. Not just emotional, but legal. Because now she was staring down not just a manipulative husband, but a man who may have orchestrated one of the most ethically disturbing family betrayals in reality TV history. Fans are watching in real time as she shifts. No longer passive, no longer polite, her voice firmer, her eyes sharper, her interviews more deliberate. And behind the scenes, sources say she's getting ready not for a fight, but for freedom, for balance, for fairness. Viewers across the globe are rallying behind her, not just because of what she endured, but because of how she endured it, with grace, with intellect, with spreadsheets, not slaps. And now that grace is turning into a storm, Kody's silence is damning. Robyn's deflections only inflame speculation. And Mary, who once played Switzerland, is beginning to distance herself from the illusion too. Meanwhile, Christine watches, from the sidelines, nodding in solemn understanding. Because she's lived this truth, she knows this awakening. She made her escape, and now it's Janelle's turn. She's not yelling. She doesn't have to. Her mere refusal to be silent is louder than any confrontation. And while the mansion on the hill still glows under Arizona's desert sun, the truth casts a longer, colder shadow. Because the empire Kody built wasn't made of love. It was made of illusion. And illusions don't hold up under audit. Now, here at Starspill USA, we're following every thread. Every clue, every whisper turned truth. Because this isn't just about a family anymore. It's about power, control, gender, economics. It's about what happens when women who were raised to believe in spiritual obedience wake up to realize they were never partners, they were pawns. But Janelle, she's done being played.
But I want you to know, I would have rejected her friendship anyway, to be completely honest with you, if Robyn approached me and wanted to be friends.
Janelle Brown had stayed silent for too long, and everyone knew it. For years, fans watched her balance between loyalty and quiet discontent. Ouch. But something shifted on when she finally spoke up. It wasn't a whisper. It was a roar. Sitting across from Kody Brown during that pivotal scene where the finances of the family were dragged into the spotlight, Janelle's voice didn't shake. It was controlled, composed, but there was a sharpness that sliced through the room like ice. "You brought it up, Kody. You brought up the money on camera." That single sentence cracked open a narrative that the Brown family, and especially Kody and Robyn, had spent years trying to control. This wasn't just a conversation. This was the beginning of a reckoning. Behind the scenes, fans had always speculated about favoritism, financial control, and where all the family's shared money was truly going, but now Janelle was drawing the line. She wasn't emotional, she wasn't begging, she was done. And in that moment, it wasn't just Kody who looked uncomfortable. Robyn's silence, her darting eyes, and the slight tension in her jaw said more than any confessional ever could. It was as if the foundation of control they'd built was slipping through their fingers. Janelle was the earthquake. The truth is, Janelle had supported this family through thick and thin. She contributed her income, built dreams around Coyote Pass, and stood by the plural family structure even when it drained her. But now she was seeing the truth that her loyalty was being used against her. That every dollar she poured into the family was being funneled into dreams that were no longer hers. As she stared at Kody and said, "I don't think I want to do this anymore," there was no turning back. This was not the Janelle who once played peacemaker. This was a woman who had reached her limit. Fans online erupted, not just in support, but in relief. Finally, someone was holding Kody accountable. Finally, someone was shining a light on the cracks that had been hidden behind staged scenes and rehearsed family unity. And while Kody scrambled to maintain control, talking circles around commitment, respect, and his version of sacrifice, Janelle didn't flinch. She was calm. And that calm was terrifying for Kody because it meant her decision was made. Then came the silence, the kind that speaks volumes. Janelle wasn't asking for permission. She wasn't playing into the narrative that Kody and Robyn had spun for so long. She was reclaiming her story. And when cameras kept rolling, Janelle's stance only solidified. Her sons were behind her. The public was behind her. And most importantly, for the first time in a long time, Janelle was behind herself. She moved out, she carved space, she found clarity. But Kody couldn't handle the rejection. He tried to spin her exit as temporary, a misunderstanding even, blaming her for prioritizing her children over him. But fans weren't buying it anymore. The Golden family image had cracked. And now viewers were seeing what had been brewing all along: favoritism, financial gaslighting, and a manipulation of power masked as patriarchal leadership. Even more shocking, whispers began circulating that Kody attempted to silence Janelle after her exit. Allegedly, NDAs were dangled, financial threats made, all to prevent her from speaking publicly. But Janelle didn't need to speak loudly to be heard. Her actions said everything. She lived her truth. She showed her independence. And while Robyn stayed nestled in her mansion, rarely addressing the chaos unraveling around her, Janelle kept showing up stronger, freer, and unapologetically herself. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial. Fans began digging into property records, tracing money trails, asking why Coyote Pass remained untouched while Robyn's home expanded and Kody's investments grew more secretive. It became clear Janelle had been contributing to a system that never intended to reward her, and that's what broke the illusion. Now, with each episode, fans are watching not just a divorce, but a liberation. Janelle's journey is no longer tied to polygamy, or to Kody, or to anyone else's expectations. She's rewriting her legacy in real time, and doing it with a quiet strength that's shaking the entire Sister Wives universe. This isn't just drama. This is justice. And as fans rally, dissect footage, and piece together the truth, One thing is certain: Janelle Brown is no longer in Kody's shadow. She's standing in her own light, and the world is watching. For more explosive truth, behind the scenes, deep dives, and raw emotional reckonings, stay tuned right here on Starspill USA, where we don't just tell the story, we expose the real one.